This week in comic books in the lands of DC, we get DC versus vampires, and I got a little bit of a bone to pick. Like it's just something that's gnawing at me, and I want to throw it out there to you guys out of this last issue, and you kind of tell me what you think. Definitely, over in the land of Marvel, Silver Surfer and Thanos team up on a buddy cop Scooby-Doo mystery. Who stole the Reality Stones? it's, it's it is what it is. And in the land of independence, I got a preview of Twig, Scotty Young's new comic book coming out, plus a bunch of other comic books, like 12 other comic books. We're back, baby. I got a stack of comic books. So let's roll an intro and jump into this. Hey, you wonderful weirdos. Welcome back. Love having you here weekly. Thanks for stopping by. So we got a huge stack of comic books. So we need to jump into it. So let's jump into it real quick. We're going to start with Strange Academy. Yes, I picked it up. I've been kind of off and on this thing. And I like Scotty Young's writing. I think he's a good writer. I like this kind of emotional teen drama thing. You can tell it's kind of like based off of all those magical school shows that you see on like all the streaming channels, where a bunch of kids, all different personalities, have to try to figure out how to get together, and we finally get our drug issue, the drug episode, if you will. Calvin here, thanks to Gaslighter, has been dealing magic in the school, and literally they're putting it in their arm, like they're like, give me that good stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's a little deep, right? Like they couldn't like smoke it or something? No, they're going straight for veins in this thing. And I was like, oh, it's a little heavy. But he gets caught and he's going to get expelled. Now, is this fair? Is this unfair? Raises a great ethical question. They took his original magic away, so now he's not magical. He's trying to be magical because he's in a magical school. So the moment he uses magic, granted, solicited or whatever, he gets the boot. And that's what Emily and a bunch of the other kids are going to find out, hopefully. But this is all at the expense of Doyle, who's been waiting on Emily to go to the dance. Yes, teen drama. It is straight teen drama in the most whimsical fashion I think I've seen yet. Like, my wife likes his magical shows, so I get stuck watching some of them, and I'm like, ugh. But this, I'm like, oh, honey, you need to read this. This is good. This is actually good. You got people's heads on fire. It's an entertaining comic book. And, for what it is. Next, we got DC versus Vampires. So, as I said in the beginning, I'm going to hit this one early. I got a little bone to pick. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you haven't read this yet, allow me to summarize. Our two vampire Justice League members, right? Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, convinced the other Justice Leaguers that Green Arrow and Batman are the actual vampires and we need to go drop some bodies, right? So they show up to the Batcave. They're ready to drop some stuff, right? I'm assuming they couldn't convert Batman right up off the spot like I originally thought Spider-Man, because, how are you going to bite into him, right? He's Superman, right? So they convince him, and they bring Martian Manhunter, right? And Martian Manhunter gets shoved into a tube and teleported someplace else with some old Justice League tech. And I'm like, why would you do that? He can read your minds. He can, read your mind and say, uh-oh, you're not the vampires. They're the vampires. Right? So, by the time that the Justice Leaguers find out that it's not them two, it's already too late. The damage has been done. Batman has spit gas, kryptonite gas, into Superman's face, and then they book out. Remember what I said earlier? He's super strong, unless it's kryptonite. So, you spit the gas in his face, weakening him, right? He's stumbling around and everywhere, as the two vampires are standing over him. You would think the guy that always has a contingency, right? Maybe would have thought that out a little bit. I want to make Superman super weak so the vampires can bite him. And then, ta-da! But who knows what it actually does to his blood system, if anything. We don't know. They're going to use whatever woo-woo they want. But I'm like, this just seemed kind of out of character for it. The greatest asset got teleported away. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about this issue. All in all, I've been loving this story as it's been coming up. Just thought that was kind of hinky, and it stuck out in my head. And I was kind of hungry when I read this one. So, I get a little hangry if I don't eat. Okay. Moving on. We got Detective Comics number 10, 54. So yeah, more of Arkham Tower type stuff going on in here. The battle ensues, if you will. Everything's breaking loose. The control on the inmates. Assassination attempts through the party crashers, and Siphon's run around with this with a French chef's knife. Why is that type of knife? Technically, most people would call it a butcher knife, but it's actually a French knife or French chef's knife. Why is that like the most prevalent knife ever? Like Michael Myers, comic books, like Professor Pig, right? They always use that knife. That's a weird one. Anyway, so yeah, everything's breaking loose and battles ensuing, right? This is the great call to action that's about to happen. So not a whole lot of information, just everybody's let loose. The lack of a better term, the inmates are running the asylum now. They've taken over, literally. Okay. The backstory to it, I'm still enjoying this. I probably enjoyed this a lot. We're still dealing with this kid. He's now on the streets, right? He escaped from Arkham, and Batman's very invested in this young boy, and to try to save him with the other Robins and everything. And he's just not having it because he doesn't see Batman or the Robins as the good people in this. He sees the people that are legitimately helping him, right? Why the other good guys are just trying to nab him, and he doesn't understand why. Great story. Next, your new buddy cop team. Boom. Thanos and Silver Surfer. Thanos sits on his little glidey throne thing, shifting through space. Silver Surfer cruising with him on a surfboard. And they got to find out who stole the Reality Stones. Well, whoever stole them knows them very well because he's been manipulating their realities around them that directly relate to them. So in this one, the reality gets shifted for Silver Surfer that he's back with Galactus. So it's a character that knows that he was a herald of Galactus and hated that. And the other one, Thanos gets his reality shifted into having to deal with his daughter, Nebula, and that whole conflict. So again, somebody that knows that as well. Also, we find out whoever this mysterious villain is also knows Jack of Hearts. Jack of Hearts is kind of a weird character. It's more of a throwaway character. There are people, he does have a fan base, I'm sure, right? I'm not saying he doesn't. But what I will say is Jack of Hearts is not like, can you tell me his last storyline that he was prevalent in, right? So it's somebody that knows that as well. So this makes, they also know Marvel. So we're not talking about a new character. We're talking about somebody that's been around for a while, obviously. So who is it? Maybe the next issue would tell us. I don't want them to. I keep wanting us to drop clues. I think that would be interesting. Nobody said it had to be a good guy or a bad guy in this case. It could be either. Somebody's got the reality stuff. That's all we know. Next, who do you think it is? Definitely comment down below. I would love to, maybe you're thinking different than I am. I would really like to know what you're thinking. Let me know down below. Next, Brewster Gold. Interesting fact in this, spoiler. Apparently I'm supposed to say spoiler alert after reviewing things. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Spoiler alert. If you don't know, Brewster Gold is the father of Rip Hunter, the time-traveling master. They hinted towards it in the last issue, confirmed it in this issue. I think that's interesting. This is the first time I've heard of this in any type of continuity. I know some of the Golden Age stuff. Of course, that was before Brewster Gold, so it doesn't really matter. So it's not really retconning anything. So I think that's interesting. We'll see where that takes us. But in this one, we find out that they laid claim to Earth, and technically, and in their words, if we follow the rules that we follow today here on Earth, they technically have claim on it. I don't agree with that, nor do I agree with the claim of just planting a flag and saying something is yours. I think that takes away from horrendous battles that have happened and lives lost over the histories of every continent on the U.S. that has been taken over at some point or another. I wish it was that vague. Usually wars ensue for years afterwards which is a weird time, seeing as where we're at today with Ukraine and Russia. Wow, that's kind of serendipitous. But anyway, so what does Rip do? Rip breaks the ultimate, time-traveling, woo-woo rule of going back and changing the past. Kind of. He doesn't technically change it. He gets their secretary or their funder to do it. Um, it seems arbitrary to me to have to make her do it if you're just gonna break the rule overall. But whatever. It's fun. It's engaging. Love the verbiage in here. The world, of course, gets these two to fight each other in a gladiator-style fight, much like the cover here. Just for it to be broken up with Rip Hunter showing up saying, "Aha! You don't really own the planet. Take a look at your charts." Because I would be breaking the rules if I moved the flag. Wink, wink. I don't. Whatever. I still had fun with it. All right, Task Force Z. So our two Task Force Zs, they square off, right? We got like Solomon Grundy and KG Beast on one side, and then we got the ones we've been reading about on the other side. KG Beast brings up some interesting points in here about how do you know you're on the side of good? Two-Face isn't a good guy. You're not legitimate through any government agency except for what Two-Face told you, whereas we are under a Waller. And it's like, oh, it's a good point. But he's also very sadistic in his ways of doing it. So again, action over title, I guess, would be what the determination would be in this. It's interesting, you know, if you're, well, I don't want to go that route because that could get sticky. I'm not trying to anger people. Anyway, if you have a title, do you have a right to do certain things under the purview of your title? I guess would be the way to put it. The answer is, of course, no. Right? No decent person would think of it that way, but people do. It is what it is. Or they make sure you know they can versus they can't. Also, Bloom in here, being as creepy as all gets out, tries to position himself for a job with the other team. Because apparently they had him as a prisoner at one point. Now he wants to come back as an employee. But obviously there's a nefarious plan there as well. So, yeah, I don't know how interested I am in this anymore. It's getting a little. I don't need to read two of the same stories, right? You got two teams that are pretty much the same thing, reincarnated zombies with the Lazarus resin. Which one's jockeying for position over the other one? That seems more like something you would hear about in the news with politicians versus a comic book. I don't know, but I'll pick up the next issue and we'll see where it goes. Next, refrigerator full of heads. So we find out that finally we get the confirmation that our two protagonists in here are actually agents, right, of a government agency, and they were there to investigate something. And the bikers show up to like wipe them bodies because they want the axe. Ta-da! What we find out is of course the girl beats everybody up, starts chopping off heads, and starts throwing them in the shark's mouse head that she's got hanging in there, right? Comic book woo-woo stuff. But what we find out is that how closely connected this is to the last issue. Not just the same town and not the same axe, but they're even bringing back characters and somehow reanimated his head. This reads very much like something his father would do. If you don't know, this is Joe Hill, of course, who's Stephen King's son. It reads very much like a Stephen King thing. Like this twist kind of happens, but really, it just doesn't. It's almost predictable to some degree. Like you knew somebody was going to be coming back. There they are. It's still enjoyable to read. I like the artwork in it. It's whimsical and entertaining. But I think where they're trying to be a twist, it's just confirming something that you've already predicted in most cases. All right, this week's hot pick. I got to go with Ghost Rider #1. Oh, I was so scared of this after reading the last Ghost Rider run, and I was just like, oh my God, who cares? And then this comes along, and I'm like, oh. So if you don't know in the beginning here, everything's a hallucination. It's a village of the perfect, tranquil, suburban type life, but he's injured. Right? Johnny Blaze has been injured, and they're trying to convince him that it's like a TBI and you got hallucinations, right? Certain parts of your brain, if you hit them hard enough or have a traumatic brain injury to them enough, his actions in here mimic those very, very much. Trouble sleeping, nightmares, illusions out of the corner of your eyes. What are some other popular ones? Irritation, like even in the most happiest situations. Irritations, and just a general depressive demeanor, right? These are generally the symptoms of like a traumatic brain injury, and they did a very good job explaining that in here to the point to where you legitimately thought that that's what he had in here. Come to find out, it's all a big illusion. They've just been trying to suppress the Ghost Rider, but he is out, and Bubba, he is angry. So good stuff there. Okay, next on the list, we're going to go with Amazing Spider-Man. I thought this would lead into something with this Goblin Queen. This is another informational dump about everything that's going on with Ben Reilly, really. And I'm not particularly interested in it. I thought maybe we'd go down that road that we went last week with her kind of messing with people's minds and giving them the delusions to that point of deleting themselves. But nope, she's just a standard bad guy. So next on the list is Dark Ages. I've been enjoying Dark Ages. This has been a great book, and I really like what they did in here. So they took Venom, Carnage, and Miles Morales and made it into like one terrifying, mean creature, right? They destroyed it kind of easy in the book, I thought, right? Like, we already know what kind of throws off the symbiotes, you know, the fire and the noise. And if it was as easy as they did it in here, then they would all end that quickly, right? So it just seemed kind of wonky to me. Yeah, they shot some fire and made some loud noise. Separated the symbiotes or something. Okay, fine. I'll let it go. But we get Deadpool in here. We're going to be getting a lot of characters in here. He kind of acts as he's driving them from the port to where Apocalypse is. Apocalypse is, well, he's trying to capture the energy from a neutron star, right? Which is weird because it's not really a star. That's actually the explosion. It's what created the Big Bang Theory, right? The Big Bang, right? Okay, woo-woo. We're going to roll through this to kind of bring energy back. And, of course, he's using big brain superheroes that he has under the control thanks to the Purple Man, right? He's got them under their control. So, yeah, not a lot happened in here as far as how this is working, a lot of detail to it. We are getting kind of interesting facts that basically Rescue, right? She's in an Iron Man type suit that's apparently steam powered. Okay. X-23, who shouldn't be able to feel pain, can feel pain in here because there's no electricity on the Earth or no power on the Earth. The nanodes in her are not powered. I'm not buying it. That's just bad science. Like, that's just bad science right there. But it is what it is, right? So we have to accept it. So yeah, for the most part, I'm enjoying this. It's a good read. I'm having fun with it. Yeah, it's got its little things in it here and there, but then again, you got to push the story forward, right? So moving into Independence, Berserker, I don't know what they're doing with this. Like, everything's just an informational dump. We find out the mastermind behind this probably has more going on with him than he's letting on. You know, like, he's super archaeology guy, and he has no problems with dropping bodies to recover artifacts. He's like a deadlier version of Indiana Jones, I guess. Like, because they show him dropping a couple of bodies in here, his past. But more importantly, he gets this sample, right, from Berserker, from the past. It's like, I'm not even going to go over the time frame that they went through here because there was a little bit of hiccup in his little explanation there. However, something that he did bring up that is an actual fact is that we kind of have these black holes through our history where we just kind of assume what happened in them, but we don't really know, right? Like, there was that time right before the Dark Ages started, right? There's like 2,000 years right there of right before the Dark Ages hit and the Renaissance picked up, right? That we're not really sure what created the Dark Ages because a lot of people were enlightened. We know people were traveling, but for some reason, like, Europe just went into the Dark Ages. It's kind of weird. I know some people want to blame it on religion, but we can't really confirm that. So we have these little spots and areas of the world where we're not, like, we know civilization, but something in the middle there is usually missing. It's an interesting concept. It's a factual concept, and it definitely brings us to do more research in those areas. I thought that was interesting, and I like how they kind of tied our Keanu Reeves character into that to kind of explain what's happening. But he also explained that what's more important about Keanu Reeves' character, Berserker, in this isn't so much that he's just this killing machine that can kill. His real weapon is the amount of knowledge that he has had forgotten, you know, languages that can't be deciphered, and parts of the world that have never been touched that he has been to is actually why he's more fascinated in him than just the fact that he's a killing machine. I thought that was interesting, and I was glad that they kind of brought that out a little bit, because something that lives through time and travels as much as he did, there's a lot more there than just how to choke somebody out. Like that really hasn't changed a whole lot over the years, right? Language, movement, migration of people, those things have changed tremendously over history. So I'm glad they kind of touched on it. I hope they kind of hint on it a little bit more. I think that would be interesting. Next, Department of Truth. I I hated this issue. So we're kind of playing with psychedelics in this one. We got a Lee Harvey Oswald, probably the clone, more than likely, having psychedelic conversations with the lady in red about reality and realism and what's fake and what's not. And it read like a Pink Floyd album cover. That's the best way to put that. Or Grateful Dead, whatever psychedelics you want to take. The thing's just an acid trip all the way through. I don't much enjoy that kind of stuff, and I definitely don't enjoy the what if woo woo. Like what if reality isn't reality? That's not deep. That's lame. That means nothing. Like, I'm sorry. I know some people don't like. They're like, oh no, you should be able to say what if and add whatever you want to it. It should heighten deeper thought, and psychedelics help with that. Show me a brain scan, and I'll show you where it doesn't. It's just a dopamine injection. It doesn't make you any smarter. Doing any illicit drug does not make you any smarter in any way. It just dopamine injections into your head, and you're just talking through it. That's it. Welcome to the Biology 101. I don't know. Sorry. So yeah, this is not my favorite issue. But that does that. And then the next one will be about a cryptid or some weird monster or alien, and I'll love that one. It's really up and down. It's almost like multiple comic books in the series. It really is. Next, Step by Bloody Step. This was interesting because it's super thick comic book. But you ready for this? There's no real words to be read in this. It's basically a pictorial. The parts where it does have dialogue boxes, it does some foreign language. And I shouldn't say foreign language because that wouldn't be accurate. It does a non-existent language speak, alien, if you will. So you don't know what they're really saying. But the art is descriptive enough in it to where you can pick up what's going on. It's a journey story, right? A quest. They're going someplace. We don't know where. We got a lady in armor. We're assuming their child. They run across a village. Village gets in trouble. They help out with it. And then they try to reward by giving something to the kid. And the mom in armor is not having this. Like, no, you will not feed my child. You will not do this. I'm sure there's a lot more going on in here, but I'm assuming the writer would have to tell us. That's all I really got. At the end, one of the villagers that tried to help the child by giving food or a toy or something got taken away. That, like, some guys interviewed him and took him away. That was it. I'm not really sure. And honestly, I don't want to have to think this much for my entertainment at the end of the day. Like, I'm not trying to write a research paper on this. I'm just a guy on YouTube, right, that talks about books that you read in case somebody missed them or maybe somebody has a different opinion. I don't want to have to interpret a story to people. That's not fun. That's not why you're here. All right, next. Most boring book this week. Yeah, this was boring. And I'm sure it will pick up. I'm almost positive it will pick up. So please don't judge this book, off this one review. I'm almost positive it will pick up. It seems like it's right on the cusp of something, and then it just gets lost in mundaneness, I think is the problem. And that's The Killer, Affairs of the State. So this is all the bureaucracy behind an assassination team, or somebody that's about to get assassinated. We'll put it that way. It's literally a guy working a mundane job to keep a low profile, and at night they're scoping out this guy's habits and what he does and trying to shoot him alone. The guy's pretty high powered in an area, creates riots and stuff like that when need be, keeps crime at bay, and the mayor kind of gives him some kudos every night. Some crooked stuff going on, right? And it goes pretty deep apparently. So this guy's got to go. But this is the team, him and two others. They're just like the logistics and analysts of the whole thing. So this thing reads like bureaucracy in the government at the end of the day. One guy's always more experienced, thinks he knows everything, explains how it all really is, while everybody's talking and doing stuff. And it's like, it's kind of This is boring. All right, next, Out. Out concludes. This is issue 5 of 5. It ends kind of abruptly. They confirmed that it was a vampire that they found in the church. They never really made that so clear. Um, and of course, it starts killing Germans and everybody else around there, and makes our protagonist in this, Noka, makes him a vampire. Right? Really sad. Um, but he embraces the arms of his lover, and they both kiss as the sun rises, and Noka turns to ash because he's a vampire now. He killed him, and the prisoners escaped down a tunnel. That's um, Hmm. This shouldn't have been a 5 issue story. This should have spread out a little bit because the Noko relationship with the lieutenant officer, that just kind of just happened abruptly for no reason. Two prisoners, and then all of a sudden, like, they met each other for like a brief few minutes at one point, and then all of a sudden they're kissing as dawn comes up. Like, there was nothing to establish that relationship, or that either one of them even liked the same sex or anything along those lines. It was just a moment in passion, I guess, that happens. I'm not really sure how to describe it. It was kind of just abrupt, and I was like, it didn't seem like it seemed like it was just thrown in there to be in there, versus a part of the story. I think that's a fair criticism. Again, I'm not one of those people. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what you do. That's up to you, and whatever you do, right? Um, but when it's just kind of thrown into a story as a, aha, see, they were this the whole time and you didn't know. Well, I didn't know because you didn't mention it, and that's your job as the writer. So, yeah, that's a hard criticism. But for the most part, I enjoyed the story. All right, so Twig came out, and they comic book stores got this preview, and that's exactly what it is. When I read this, there's no story in here. It's a straight advertisement, so I don't think I'm going to be spoiling anything at this point. But it just kind of introduces you to the character, the type of art that will be in it. Confirms that it will be some sort of quest type story, which is Scott. This is not a spoiler. This is what Scotty Young does on these independents, right? They're always like Middle West, right? There's the one that we always reference when we talk about a Scotty Young independent book, right? Middle West, the quest story, if you will, and several of his other books. They're always kind of based in this quest type of thing. We're gonna get some of that in here because that sells, and it's a good story, and it's a hero's arc with some sort of lesson being learned, and I think that's gonna happen in here too. I think it will be enjoyable. I would even go so far as to say that it would probably be teen appropriate. It seems to me the way the artwork's laid out in it. Again, I don't want to spoil too much for you. But I'm liking the characters in this. I think they're uniquely designed from what he's done before, and I think it will be visually entertaining, appeasing, if you will. All right, guys, that's my haul. This is a long video, so I'm sorry for rambling, but I hope y'all are having a great week. What's going on in the community? The Evil Lair project's almost done. I'm hoping to get the editing done next week, hopefully, and get that out to you, as well as get our 2 rings in the mail. If you don't know, I'm making a Flash and a Green Lantern ring for 2 people in the community, and we're going to get those out. I revealed in the video who they're for. I think I accidentally revealed them in a live chat with other comic book community members out there. So make sure you go out there and check out some of these other comic book community members. Get involved. Just get involved. All right, I got nothing else. I got things to do, guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.